All right, friends, if you have been interested in knowing more about our story with our son Noah, if you wanted to hear more details from Hannah's side, not just from my side, you're in for a treat. This is a hard conversation to have. This is an emotional conversation to have. We went a little long comparatively on this podcast. It is very emotional. Both of us get emotional throughout it. But we just talk about our son, talk about our sweet boy, talk about the experience that we had as a family and how it changed us. So here is my beautiful bride. I'm so excited to have her back on the podcast. She is my all-time favorite guest, and we get to talk about Noah. Welcome to the family table. I'm Matthew Efird. Join me as I speak with parents, caregivers, and family experts about the joys and challenges of family life. We'll share the stories, advice, and insights that will help you build a loving and resilient family. Pull up a chair and join us at the family table. Welcome, everybody, to the family table. I'm your host, Matthew Efird, and I have the incredible honor of having my beautiful bride back for part 2 of this conversation about our family. And hopefully I can rope you into some more conversations in the future. But this is one that we talked about last time that we got a lot of good feedback on our last episode. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for our community for watching it and sharing it and commenting. But a lot of people want to hear more of Noah's story, right? And just before we get started, I just want to kind of comment on, I know a lot of people have been talking about it, right? Charlie Kirk got assassinated this past week. And there's so many people that it has hit really hard. I know for me, as a man in his 30s who loves the Lord and has small children and a wife he adores, cannot imagine. Mm-hmm. And I guess the thing for me is I've written a couple of things on Facebook for those who follow me on Facebook. It's really just this moment of, are we going to continue to step forward in courage? And I believe that's what we're called to do. And we mourn our brother, who was a martyr for the faith, someone I didn't know personally, but somebody that continued to speak out against evil, and evil is very prevalent in this world. And I am thankful that we serve a God who's ultimately won. And it, no matter the circumstances in this life, that we get to find peace in his presence. And so that's what I've been praying for his family. That's what I've been praying for our family. That's what I've been praying for a lot of people that I know that are suffering. And there's a bunch of other people this past week that had awful circumstances, some that we know of, some that we don't. And really, I guess the conversation for this conversation is part of our circumstances that we have been through, and just trying to share our story, but hopefully provide some insights, maybe some hope for people that find themselves suffering. So, Noah Clifton Efird, we got pregnant in June of 2019 with him. And then I can still remember the appointment that we found out something was wrong. So what do you remember of that appointment?
I remember going into the ultrasound, and we took Walker with us. He was 1.5 at the time. So he was really excited to see baby on the ultrasound, and it was really sweet, running around. Then we went back, and we were none the wiser. You know, the ultrasound looked fine to us. I feel like my goal and attention was always, is there a heartbeat? Does it look strong? And both of those were a yes. So then we go back into the actual room, and our doctor came in. It was the first time us meeting her. She was new on staff. And she goes to share this hard news that the ultrasound looked abnormal. And as she's sharing that information, what I remember is Walker fell at that moment and busted his lip wide open.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, not comical that he busted his lip open, but those are both in tandem memories for me of those words of the ultrasound looks abnormal. And then Walker's bleeding. She was very apologetic, which obviously wasn't her fault. He just tripped over a stool. And then the waiting game of don't go home and Google things. This is what it could be. We're going to do some blood work. And when the results get back, we'll call you and let you know what it is. And they gave us some, different options of what it could be, one of which was trisomy 13, which is what he ended up getting diagnosed with.
So do you remember what the thing was called on his neck?
I knew you were
I was
gonna
hoping you were going to know. I don't remember what it's called. I remember what you think about.
nucleo.
Yes, that thing. So I can remember in the ultrasound, super excited, so fun having Walker there. And I can remember looking, and our x-ray technician, that's not what she's called. What's she called?
Sonographer.
Sonographer. Thank you. The sonographer asking us, hey, are y'all going to do genetic testing? And we didn't have a clue what she was talking about. I mean, we had done genetic testing with Walker, and we're like, yeah, we did it with him. We're going to do it with this baby. And she said, oh, okay. And I didn't really think much about it until our doctor came in. And I remember her very serious face and her saying there's some abnormalities. And much of what she said after that, I didn't hear, or at least I don't remember. That was just the word ringing in my head. And I remember Walker launching himself off of that chair, busting his lip, blood everywhere, all over him, all over the floor. It was awful. And so switching back and forth, trying to take care of him between you and I, trying to ask the doctor questions, just in what felt like a total tailspin, right? Just where this came way out of left field. I don't have a clue what you're talking about. So, did you figure out what it was called?
It's nuchal translucency.
That's right.
So they said, that's all I remember her saying is one, I would highly recommend blood work. And there's thickening on the nuchal translucency, which is like a fluid level on, I believe, on the back of his neck,
Yeah.
like on the spine. And normally that thins out by that week that we were there for the ultrasound, and his had not, which is apparently a sign for them to look for
Yeah.
as something maybe abnormal and you need to look into it further. But I agree with you. I don't remember anything else about the appointment other than Walker bleeding, hearing there's something wrong, and just looking at you of what just happened.
Yeah. And then I remember you had to go sit in the room and wait for blood work. And I took Walker outside to try to get him settled. We walked around for a little bit. I got him in the truck. And I remember getting him buckled up and just sitting on the front in my truck and just putting my head on my steering wheel and crying. And just like, what is going on? Fearful, sad, confused, a lot of the feelings I was feeling. And then I can remember the coming days waiting on the test results to come back being hard. But I remember one of the hardest things for me that we learned early on was like calling and updating everybody was brutal because I was having to relive it over and over and over again. And, we had family, we had friends, we had community that were crying on the phone with me, understandably. And then I felt like I had to console them. It was just, so anyone who's in, this is an early piece of advice that I would give. One of the things that was such a blessing for us is our pastor at the time and his wife, dear friends of ours, they became our point person. And so we, from September through March when he was born, we had almost weekly appointments,
Yeah.
right? I mean, sometimes
Because we were
multiple in a week.
right. We were going to two different doctors. So we would go to our normal obstetrician and then go to a specialist
Yeah.
who would do their own scans and give us updates.
So I can remember that was a big relief for me being able to communicate in kind of one fell swoop. And then also doing updates on Facebook was helpful. Of just, we had people, we had community that were praying for us. And we've talked about it a lot. There have been a few times in my life that I've felt carried by other people's prayers. And that is definitely one of them. I can remember the feeling of the presence of God and the community around us supporting us, like tangibly. I don't know how to say that any better than that. Would you comment on that any differently?
No, I just remember something that I even take now into parenting or any life or pastor. They just overwhelmed us with lots of wisdom during the time, which I'm so grateful for. A small part of what I'm grateful to them for. But he broke down our energy as like points,
Yeah.
which, he even commented, that's probably a silly way to think of it, but just say you have 100 energy points in a day. Just say that's what everybody has. And this diagnosis and situation is taking almost 90% of your energy points. So just, I mean, we had a 1.5-year-old at home. So communicating, all of those things to people who genuinely cared about us and just wanted to know. Um, I definitely felt comfort. I'm trying to also think of a good word, but just like a hug from people's support, whether it was watching Walker so we could go to an appointment or going to see us at a playground or just dropping off some muffins or the best were just the text required response. But I know this is hard. I'm praying for you. I'm here if you need anything. And the genuineness of if you need anything, whatever we needed, people were there. And I would say if you're in a hard place, find your people, find those people who are willing to carry it with you. It's like Moses and is it Aaron and her?
Yeah.
Whenever he would drop his hands, they would start losing the battle. When you're in the midst of a battle like that, you gotta have people who are willing to hold your arms up for you when you don't have the strength. And I don't want to speak for you. I feel like I know your response too, but I did not have the energy. I didn't even
I
know the
definitely did.
words to pray to the Lord other than you know me, you know everything about me and the situation and our little boy, and I'm hurting.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was just heal our son.
Mm,
That was all I could pray. And I completely agree. One of the things that we learn now on this side of it is that, right, you don't prepare for a storm when you enter the storm.
mm,
And so I'm so thankful we were on staff at church at the time. We had invested in our community intentionally for years.
mm.
And I'm very thankful for that because we had a support system in place that immediately took action.
Yeah.
And
I actually remember, sorry, I
no, go ahead.
interrupted.
No, no.
I actually remember the Sunday that Rob told our congregation. Um, it just was so sweet. Like his heart was so moved. He's not an actual blood member of our family, but he is part of our family. And he was broken for us and wanted our people to know how to be praying for us and know what was going on. And I just remember one of the sweet ladies in our church. I didn't even move from the pew after church was over. People just came over and gave me the deepest hugs and just present and cared. I just still, even though it was a hard memory, it's still a sweet memory from that I have of that time. I mean, I can visualize myself standing in that place in the church.
Yeah, I remember that. And I can remember early on when like news got out, Rob telling the church, posting on Facebook that I had a couple of people reach out and basically tell me how I should feel.
Mm.
And they had good intentions. I'm assuming that, but I truly believe they had good intentions. But it taught me very quickly the potential value and weight of empathy.
Mm.
Right? Sympathy is I see you're in a difficult situation. Empathy is I know that you're in a difficult situation. Right? I've been in that situation before, or a situation similar to that. It's really a better way to say it. And these people that reached out to me with good intentions were trying to say that their situation was the same as ours. And they were very different. And I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but the point being, it taught me very quickly to not use empathy as a way to turn the attention back to me as a person being empathetic towards somebody, but really the value. We got a book. I don't remember where you found it. The Rabbit Listens.
It's part of the Dolly Parton
Okay,
library.
so I've bought maybe more than any other book. I've bought that book for people, and it's a kid's book.
Right.
But the story behind the book is kid's tower falls down that he's built. All of these animals come by and tell him how he should feel, and then finally the rabbit gets there and just sits with him, and then his presence is what the kid was wanting, and then the kid gets to this place of sharing with the rabbit how he felt. And then the rabbit said, "Would you like for me to help you rebuild it?" And that was, I mean, I wept reading that. And it was like, this is it. If you know someone who's grieving, your presence is what they need.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your words, because oftentimes we mess it up.
Right.
We want to feel like we have the right thing to say, and you don't.
I was about to say, there's no right thing to say because the situation's already broken. So nothing you do is going to fix it. There's good natured people um, wanting to make you feel better because it's hard to sit with someone in something hard and uncomfortable and crushing. You naturally want to make them feel better. It's like when a kid falls down, you want to fix their boo boo. But this was something different. And honestly, had we not have walked through this, that would be the posture that I would take.
Sure.
Okay, what can I do? What can I say to help take the pain away? But sometimes the reality is there's nothing that you can do.
Yeah, you see that in Job's life, right? I read through Job many times during our pregnancy, and I saw early on his friends come and they sit and they grieve with him, and they don't say anything, and they're just there. And then they open their mouths and they start trying to tell Job what he should do and how he should feel, and that's when it goes off the rails. But for me, it was, I try to be very cautious to tell somebody I know what you're going through, number one, because truly I don't.
Right.
I know somewhat of what you're going through, but I try to use our story as a way to encourage people, but to see them in their grief, because people would come to me. I just speak for myself. They would come to me and they would try to tell me how to feel. They would try to tell me the way I should be handling this. They would try to tell me these things. And that was not what I needed.
Right.
The people that I cherished the most were the ones that were just saying, like you said, the text messages, the phone calls, hey, we're going to go fishing, hunting, riding, whatever it is. And I just want you to be with me. And we can talk about it if you want to talk about it. And know that I will always talk to you about it.
Mm.
But anytime you don't want to talk about it, I'm not going to force you to talk about it. That was such a gift, those people, for me. So we got genetic testing, and then on our porch, standing there, she called us a
Right.
week later, maybe 10
Yeah,
days
I'm
later.
almost wondering if they like expedited the results. It felt like forever, but it definitely was quicker than she had anticipated when she
Yeah.
called us. But yes, we were on our back porch. Walker was playing in the grass, and we put the phone on speakerphone, and she shared with us that it was positive for tricycline, and then continued to tell us what that meant.
Yeah. And so for those who don't know, who this may be the first episode they've listened to, Trisomy 13, Trisomy 18, Trisomy 21, those are all kind of somewhat related. But trisomy 18 and 13 are typically what we would consider a lethal diagnosis, that it doesn't support life outside the womb, or not for long, that in your chromosomes you have two, one from mom, one from dad, and the trisomy is a third chromosome gets attached, the 13th chromosome. So Noah had 13 chromosomes. And so I can remember one of the questions we asked the specialist, one of the questions we asked our doctor was like, hey, I see he has this hole in his heart. Like, okay, we're any money we have or give, like, what does it take to fix this hole in his heart? And the way he described it to us, it was helpful for me, was the blueprint analogy, right? So do you remember what the blueprint analogy was?
Yes, I do. And that was also one of the helpful things for me too, because I just wanted to fit all of it, everything. Okay, hole in his heart, kidneys don't work, liver's not working. Okay, we will just, not ideal, but live in the hospital and work it. So the whole thing about the blueprint was, like a house has a blueprint, when you're building it, you go back to the blueprint to know how to build. And so his genetic makeup is like the blueprint. So even if we fix the hole in his heart first time, whenever his cells would try to heal after the surgery, it's going to heal it incorrectly. It will be broken again.
Yeah. So at the foundational cellular level, he had an issue.
Right.
So one of the things that we learned, right, we ended up doing a ton of research once we found out he actually was diagnosed with this. And I can remember looking at, are we going to make it to term? Right. That was a big concern of like, do we ever get to meet him on this side of heaven?
And she shared that when we were on the port. She said, typically, babies that are diagnosed with trisomy 13 don't make it out of utero. They normally pass away in utero. So then also being the one to carry him was a very heavy weight every time we went to the doctor, which, as you already shared, was weekly, if not multiple times a week, or at most was every other week. I would hold my breath. I mean, thankfully, the Lord really blessed us. He was very happy. I would argue maybe the most active baby out of our four. So he would move a lot, which was really a gift because I would be still with us.
Sure.
But that looming piece of, we don't know how long we have with him.
Yeah. I can remember those appointments being very difficult, especially the specialist that was doing the enhanced ultrasounds or whatever they're called, to be able to track and try to give us more insight as to what was happening. And so for Noah's case, as we've kind of hinted at, he had a hole in his heart. He was having pretty severe kidney issues. He had his brain was not fully developed. There was a back part of his brain that was not fully coming together. And then
He had extra digits
he
on
had
his
extra
fingers.
digits on his fingers and toes.
And then I think his liver was enlarged.
That's right. Yeah, and his liver was enlarged. And so we're going through the pregnancy process and we're grieving and we are praying for a miracle. And I remember early on struggling, like, I'm praying for one thing and all of the information saying something different.
Right.
And wrestling with, like, am I being unfaithful in listening to what the information is telling me? And for me, it's not for everybody, but for me, it got to this place of God is answering this prayer in my life either on this side of heaven or on the next one.
Right.
And so my prayer consistently was, God, heal my son. And he did.
Mm.
It was not the way I'd wanted, but ultimately he healed our son. And so that was something that I know for me, I wrestled with a lot. And I know people wrestle with, right? It's we pray for these things and it doesn't turn out the way we want them. And it's okay. Let's part of our faith is not always being in the position of deciding. And one of the things I wrote the other day that I prayed a lot was, and still do, is God, even when it hurts, you're still good.
Mm.
You're still good. So during the pregnancy, we tried to do things with him, right? We tried to go to concerts. We went to, especially around the holidays, went to a lot of fun things. And it was just, hey, this is our opportunity to spend time with our son. And so I'm thankful for doing that. And then we read a bunch, wrote a bunch, just processing. And then we got some advice as we were getting closer to his delivery. I remember we made decisions of like the palliative care team of the hospital, the funeral home, some of those type decisions we pushed off until after the holidays because we said, unless we have to make the decision now, let's hold off on making the decision until after the holidays. Let's navigate this Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's kind of time frame as a family, and we're go one day at a time from there. And we got this advice of praying for grace for the day. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember what that was? You want to talk about that? So praying for grace for the day, this idea of when I look out at the future, I cannot I can't begin to fathom what life looks like without Noah. And it's still hard. And it always will be hard on this side of eternity. But we got this advice that I'm very thankful for of when it feels overwhelming, pray for grace for the day. When that feels overwhelming, pray for grace to get to lunch. When that feels overwhelming, pray for grace to get to breakfast. When that feels overwhelming, pray for grace to get out of bed. And for me, it just became this, in this moment, I am so dependent on the Lord for everything because I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do anything. But I need to. And this for me, what it taught me a lot was my reliance upon the Lord and the idea of pray without ceasing, right? I mean, that was very attuned for me. Do you have any thoughts about that time period as we were getting closer to his delivery?
Yeah, so the idea of us doing stuff with Noah came from one of the things we read was this book by Angie Smith, and it's called I Will Carry You. It was probably one of my favorite pieces of literature that I read about infant loss, preparing for that, after that. So Angie Smith, her husband is a singer in the Christian band Soleil, and they actually wrote a song about it, but they had a daughter who I believe had trisomy 18, and their whole thing was they wanted to do things as a family as long as they had her. And so I think they even went as far as going to Disney World. So we did a lot of stuff in the holidays, but also about you saying your prayer and reconciling with the Lord of, I know that you're capable of doing this, but this is also reality. and some wisdom from our pastor's wife. She referred to when Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane of, if this cup can pass from me, please allow it to, but not I will, but yours. And, that's also the Hannah version. But this idea of the Son of God, I mean, love incarnate, if he can pray and ask for something hard to be passed from him, then we can pray that also with the lens of, I'm not wanting it my way, I'm wanting it yours. And so I'm trusting what that looks like. So I'm praying for you to heal him on this side of heaven, but also continuing with the knowledge and preparing my heart and myself that that may not be the case based on the medical, not information that we're getting. I don't think makes us lack in faith. And I think it's very cold for someone to say that to someone who is grieving. Um, I just would caution people against that. I don't think there's anywhere in scripture, in the New Testament especially. I mean, the disciples even asked Jesus, who sinned in this man's life to cause him to have this ailment? And he's very specific that now in Old Testament, there is those examples, right? Like people
Sure.
turned away from the Lord and their families were not blessed or were blessed. But he's very adamant that it's not a punishment. So I don't think Noah's being removed from this earth is a punishment on our account. And I don't want anybody to ever think that, because that's not the God that we serve and believe and surrender our lives to. So once I got to that place of recognizing this is not a punishment for something that I've done, it was an easier weight carry from the standpoint that I could just go through with trust of, I want you with me in this, because imagining doing this without you is unbearable in an already unbearable situation. Um, and to be honest, with the part that you were talking about, starting to prepare for his birth and the palliative care to the hospitals, that was all awful for me.
Well, let me interject 1 second. So, I appreciate that you brought that up about this was not God punishing us,
Yeah.
and I think that's a very crucial thing to point out.
Mm.
It's a very easy thing to try to say and to claim, um, and where we have to realize is that sin is destructive in this world, and evil is very real, and so there are things that God allows to happen that we just don't understand. And the way that I, in my simple mind, have come to understand it a lot is with our boys, all of our boys. When I ask them to do something or not do something, when I ask them to restrain from something, give something up, um, I'm doing it because I love them and I can see further down the road than they can. And there's some things that we're getting to in just a minute about Noah's life that are very hard, but very merciful.
Mm.
Um, and so thank you for pointing that out. One of the things I just want to interject in our relationship, right? I can remember early on. So this was fall when we had just found out about his diagnosis, of getting at odds with one another. And that's not our relationship. We talked about that last episode, like starting our relationship about 4.5 hours away taught us to communicate well. And we've done that pretty well. But we very quickly got to this place of like, we're both suffering. And one thing that we learned that was helpful for us was asking the question, are you okay? Was completely futile. It's like, I'm not okay.
No.
Not at all. And so what we learned to ask is either not are you okay or are you upset? Because both of those two things that's a very clear answer. what we learned to ask each other was, have I done something to upset you?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that we did that for many reasons. Number one, it was this idea to say, hey, I see you, and I see you in this moment hurting. We are both hurting, but I just want you to know that I see you.
Mm-hmm.
And also, for me at least, it was a way to gently say, hey, let me come alongside you in this moment. You may not be acting appropriately to me, or you may not be acting appropriately to Walker. So why don't you take a breath? And then thirdly, for me, it was a big deal to say, if I've done something to upset you, to wrong you, then I want to fix that. I can't fix the situation with Noah, but I can handle my actions. I'm responsible for my actions. And so those three things were super important for me to help kind of clarify asking the question, have I done something to upset you? And then following that up with, if it's yes, then can you tell me what I did? Let's talk through it. If the answer is no, then it was, hey, would you like to talk about it? So it kind of gave both of us the freedom to say, in this moment, I'm having a moment. I just need space. I don't want to talk to anybody. Okay, why don't you go out on the porch? Why don't you go for a run? That's what I would say to you, not you say to me. Why don't you go somewhere? Why don't you go see somebody? Why don't you go to dinner? And I'll handle things at home for a few hours. That was really, really helpful for me. Can you think of anything else in our relationship that was helpful during the pregnancy? It's okay if you can't. That's the big kind of revelation for me of helping, that I've carried over with other friends that are suffering, and just trying to be present with them. That I think is important. So we are getting closer to Noah being born. We have to go meet with the palliative care team, which was awful. We're meeting now multiple times a week with doctors, which is awful. And for whatever reason, God just kind of put it on our heart to start praying for the staff that we're coming in contact with. And to me, it was overwhelming how many of them cried in front of us when we shared, I see you, I'm thankful for you, I'm praying for you. I cannot imagine having to do this every day of your life. We're living this in this moment for our family, but whenever we leave this room, you have another family coming in, and another family, and another family, and another family. And that was just one of those moments of, hey, this will forever be part of our story. But God's going to continue if we allow him to redeem our story for our good and his glory. And we don't always understand, but his ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And so that's where our faith comes into play, right? We've got to trust. And we have a trust built on the character of God, that he's the same today as he was yesterday, as he will be tomorrow. And we just lean into that. So we're getting closer to the delivery. He's due mid-March, late March, March 20th,
March 14th.
That was his due date.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're getting closer. We have, thankfully, friends and family that are willing to help.
Can I also say something
Yeah,
about
please.
the palliative care team? So when we would share, that we were praying for the staff, they also would share this, to me, astounding, basically 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. They said this type of situation will likely be the hardest situation you ever face, losing a child, and it either unites people stronger than they've ever been, or it absolutely tears them apart.
Yeah,
And
great
I
point.
remember in having those limited energy points, deciding we will not be torn apart from this. And so just what you're saying about asking each other, have I done something to upset you, being crucial to this was only going to get harder. And we were about to face some really dark days and see each other in just the most raw form ever. Um, and just choosing, like, I'm not going to lose Noah and Matthew over this. Maybe that's like not the best mentality to have towards that. Almost like a I'll beat this, but I also just thought I can't lose someone else through
Sure.
this. And I don't want to lose my best friend because you are my best friend. And so that requires action though. That
Yeah.
choice of we will make it through this requires sacrifice, requires abundant grace, requires patience. I mean, it requires loving each other as Christ has loved the church and as he loves us. And that is hard as humans to do. And we have not and will not and did not do it perfectly. But just that pursuit that that is our goal, that is our finish line. That is the race that's before us of I will not stop choosing this person no matter what obstacle comes in the way. And there were obstacles then and there have been obstacles since then. I'm sure there'll be more along the way, but I'm not going to stop running with you. And well, maybe we should use a different analogy since you don't like to run.
Yeah,
I
I'm not
won't
a runner.
quit being with you
Yeah.
in this life.
Yeah. No, it's a great distinction. I can remember um, when Dr. Kachi, is that his name? I can't remember. I used to know his name at Athens Regional. As we had finished meeting with them, he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, Matthew, how was your marriage?" I said, "I think it's great. And I married my high school sweetheart. She's my best friend." And he gave me that advice of
Mhm.
you need to be aware 100 times out of 100, this goes one of two ways.
Right.
It will drive a wedge between you
Mhm.
and you will never survive
Mhm.
as a couple,
Mhm.
or it will fuse the two of you together and nothing will come apart.
Yeah.
And
So
so
you're stuck with me?
that's right, forever. Um, so the thing for me that I'm very thankful for is that we chose each other.
Mhm.
It was just another moment to say, I choose you.
Yeah.
And I'm all in sickness and in health until death do we part. And so that was hard. It's much easier to be in health, and it's much easier to be when the bank account's full and the kids are healthy and playing and the house is pretty. And but there's so much that I learned about myself and about you that on this side of it, I would never have asked for the experience,
Right.
but I'm thankful for the things that we learned, and I'm thankful for the way the Lord's using them and the way He's prepared us to parent Walker. Um, but the thing that I go back to is you said about the way Christ loves the church, and one of the examples I love to see is that He's patient, and I love when some translations translate that as long suffering,
Mhm.
and that to me is true patience.
Mm.
That I'm going to suffer with you.
Yeah, there's a really great song by Bethany Barnard. Um, she's married to one of the Shanes of Shane and Shane,
Oh, nice.
and she wrote this beautiful song. It's called "Tears on My Face," and it's a cry out to the fact that it says, I won't sing it for you. Um, it says, "You, Son of Man, love incarnate, um, don't leave me far away, but you come, you sit with me, you grieve with me, and I see the tears on your face," because so many things like layers. But one, I mean, we're called children of the Lord. So he loved Noah more than we did and we do, which is a little impossible to believe. So he's crying too. He's weeping. He doesn't want this precious baby to be suffering, but also he doesn't want you to be suffering either. So that's one layer. Second layer, it brought so much more emotion and understanding to the sacrifice of Christ's life that our perfect, loving Father would give his only son to save me, who is imperfect, who has done so many things that are not pursuing him because he loves me, loves us, loves anyone listening so much that he would give his son as a sacrifice so that we can be reunited with him in heaven. That just because I mean I could tell you I don't love anybody on
Yeah.
this earth enough. I mean I'm just that's very bold statement, but to give my own child for no way.
Not even close.
No. And if somebody asked me that, I would I'm sorry, I think you're insane and also call the police. But he gave. It's not even like someone had to pry him from his fingers. And then Jesus to relinquish that and trust his dad. I mean, that just whole nother level.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It is overwhelming, the love of our Savior
Mm.
and the sacrifice that he made on the cross for our sins. And we, though I've said it many times, he chooses to love us in spite of us.
Right.
And I'm
Which
just
I
in
also
awe.
I wonder if that's a little bit where like family motto, our family motto is even though we will, it kind of tailors to that, right? He
Yeah.
loves us in spite of us. So even though we will, in spite of our circumstances, we still will choose to praise the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where that slogan kind of came out, was this idea that um, it was twofold in the um, even though you slay me, yet will I praise you. And then even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we will fear no evil. And it was just kind of summarizing those two things for our family to say, hey, we're all in.
Mm.
And I don't understand what God's doing. But at the end of the day, I trust Him with a clear mind, a clear heart, clear eyes, full heart, can't lose. Um, so, but this idea that I'm in my right mind and I still trust Him. And um, even when it hurts, He's good. So this little thing happens in March of 2020, which was the pandemic. And I can remember we're getting very close to Noah's due date.
Mm.
We're hearing rumblings of pandemic.
To be honest with you, I had no idea anything was happening.
I had heard rumors of it,
Right.
but we didn't really have a clue what was going on.
No.
And so um, all of our pregnancies, all of the deliveries, excuse me, have been rather quick.
Mm.
But Noah was almost born in the truck.
Oh, yes.
So we had friends from church come over,
Mhm.
played games, which was
Played some
very
card
fun. Played
games.
some card games after dinner.
Which even that, like just having friends, what you were saying earlier, be present and be available to talk, but also treating you like normal because everything else is in disarray.
Yeah.
So having a normal dinner, playing normal games, if you have the energy, because
Sure.
there were some nights I remember you and I played bananagrams all the time, and mercy. Sometimes after bedtime, I don't have the energy to come up with a word. But yes, that night it was a wonderful night spent just eating, playing games. It just felt normal and things, were not normal.
So then we went to bed,
Hmm.
and you were, yeah. I thought we went to bed and you woke up.
Okay.
I was not the one having contractions, so maybe it wasn't. I can just remember
No, that is right.
you getting up, telling me you're going to go get in the tub.
Which,
For you,
right, is always it's go time.
it's go time, and so we called sweet Miss Deandra, and she came over, and I can remember you pacing around the table in lots of
Also,
pain, and I can remember driving quickly, not too quickly, but quickly to the hospital very early in the morning, and getting there, a total God thing, literally a parking spot up front,
yes,
and
praise the Lord.
parking, getting you inside,
Oh my goodness.
and the sweet person at the desk letting you go up and letting me check you in because he was about to be born right there. So we pulled
In
in.
the emergency room.
We pulled in, and it was 15 minutes later you were holding him.
Yes.
I know I've got the notes written somewhere.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to think. He was born at 5 something. No, I may even be getting that wrong. It may have been 7. I started having, I don't remember. I do remember he was 5'5".
Yeah.
I don't remember how long he was. I do remember standing in that emergency room and I felt like my belly was a fist. It was contracted so much. Oh my goodness. Yes. So little do we know, Miss Deandra was praying for a quick delivery. And again, so not too much because I don't know who all listens to this and they may not want to know all, a whole birth story. But he would not have done well to stay in the birth canal
Yeah.
for longer. And so anyone who has had a natural delivery, I tip my hat to you because it is otherworldly. Our midwife even said at the end that we joke and say that women go to the stars when they have natural deliveries because I can attest that that's exactly what it feels like. Just
you
a total
you did incredible.
out our body experience. Well, that's very kind. It was. I remember yelling a lot and saying I didn't want to do this. And part of it was the pain, and part of it was he was
Yeah.
safe
Yeah.
inside, right? And I know he was still suffering from the diagnosis of trisomy 13, but in my mind was he had done so well inside.
Yeah. He'd made it to 39 weeks.
Right. I don't want him to come
Yeah.
out. 37.
Sorry. But it was just, we made it that
Right.
far.
Right.
And
He wasn't supposed to.
And he wasn't supposed to.
Right.
And so, but also we knew what was waiting on us
Right.
on the other side.
So after he came out rather quickly, I remember it taking a very long time for him to cry.
Yeah.
That
was really hard.
And reconciling, like, this may be it.
Yeah.
He,
Just the acknowledgement of he may have already passed. And so that was very hard. I can remember crying with you, and then I can remember the relief when he cried. Loudly, very loudly. And we cleaned him off, got him wrapped up, and he was looking around, and I can remember
had a dark set of hair.
Yeah.
Curly hair. I will also say we had an amazing staff at Athens Regional. One nurse in particular we're still very close friends with. I check in with her often, and we even had an incident like it ended up being nothing major, but we had to take Warren to the emergency room. We thought he was having difficulty breathing, and she had just gotten off her shift in labor and delivery, and she came and sat with me in the emergency room for an hour, and she took care of us when we had both Abel and Warren, and it was just uh, really sweet. The Lord, in a brutally difficult situation, brought us amazing people to take care of us and take care of our son. So yeah, he was born, finally cried out loud. I remember our church gifted us, well, asked us and then gifted us with someone to come take photos for us. It's actually a friend of ours from college, so it felt comfortable. And she captured his life here on earth for us, which is cherished memories for us, for our family, for anyone who wants to see what know it looked like. Will be, I think, for our boys throughout their life to know what their brother looked like, because right, Walker was the only one who was physically here at the time. So I remember she got there shortly after because I called her in the middle of the night. She was living in Gwinnett, so easily an hour away, and she didn't want to miss it for us. She wanted to be there, and she did a great job. I also remembered, so other people may know this. I didn't know this when I was pregnant, but if you have trisomy 13, 18, 21, your placenta also has that. So my placenta had trisomy 13, so it was very fragile. So I remember a midwife saying, I have to get the placenta out. And it was painful just because it was so thin, and they were having to, push on my belly and get it out. And so I was in so much pain, I asked her to not touch me anymore. But she obviously can't do that. She's doing her job, taking care of me. So they had to give me pain medicine, which made me very sleepy. And I just remember for hours fighting the weariness that the medicine had given me. I wasn't hurting anymore, but I didn't want to fall asleep because I didn't want to miss anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember just that time in the hospital for me was I can't miss anything.
Right.
And so
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
And we're thankful for the time, but we know it's going to be limited.
Yeah.
And so he's born on March 7th. All of our friends and family got to come see him. So
yeah, the friends that we weren't overwhelmed. Yeah.
Yeah, but the closest community that we wanted to come and see him. And for those who listened that didn't get an invite to that, no disrespect, but
No,
there was just a few people that we had let into that part of our life in that moment. And so they got to come see him. Our family got to come see him. And then everybody went home, and it was just us.
Mhm.
And we got to just cherish him.
And also, I will say, so another evidence being with us and with Noah and his story, and this back to the pandemic was starting to be at its peak. Schools were starting to shut down. It was in the time of, oh, it'll be shut down for 2 weeks and then we'll open back up. Again, I was not aware of any of this. Matthew keeps up on those things, so I've been a little bit more aware. I do remember one friend coming and saying, so I left some chicken at your house. Things are getting a little crazy at the grocery store, so I got some toilet paper chicken. And I thought, that's so
What?
who is going to hoard toilet paper? So thankfully,
we're there
on March
on March
7th.
7th. And then the hospital closes to guests on March 13th.
Yes.
So we left the hospital on March 9th. And a few days later, the hospital closes.
Correct. Which means that our family would have never gotten to physically meet Noah.
And that was in the early craze. I may not have been able to meet him.
Right.
It would be hard to think
that
they wouldn't have let that happen. But you know what I mean? Like it was,
right.
There's so many moments throughout Noah's story that we can look back on now, and we can see God's mercy.
Yes, absolutely.
In the midst of suffering and tragedy.
But those little pokes, it's like if you've ever done the little craft with your kids, if you put the black paper up and there you poke through and there's little streams of light. There was definitely those little pinholes of light of he is still there, he's still present.
So we eventually get transferred from the hospital room. They let us stay there overnight because they didn't know. Our last doctor's visit, our doctor had prepared us, Dr. Roseman had prepared us to say, like, hey, when he's born, if he's born alive, you will have very little time with him.
Minutes, maybe
hours.
Tops.
Because of the things that he could see in the ultrasound.
Yeah.
And so that's what we were prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember, like, we didn't have anything for the hospital.
No.
Any extra clothes, nothing. And so, like, our family went home with the anticipation of, like, he's probably not going to make it through the night.
Right.
And I can remember that first night not sleeping at all. Neither one of us. Mm-hmm. Holding him, taking times holding him, praying for him, praying over him, singing to him, telling him about things. And then the next morning comes, and the staff is, when our nurse comes back on, she comes back on shift. Thank you.
She worked day shift.
She was kind of surprised to see us. And then they eventually moved us into that room in the ICU.
The NICU.
The NICU later that afternoon. Mm-hmm. And it's like a halfway home sounds awful. It's
called like a stay-in room. So it's where babies that are about to exit the NICU, they let parents stay a night in there to practice, to monitor one more night. But, if you have to go home with a feeding tube, it's kind of like, bad word to call it halfway home, but it's almost like a practice stage of the medical staff is still available and close by, but it is your step towards leaving the hospital.
Yeah. We had a real bad experience with the doctor. I don't want to get into that just because I don't want to speak ill of anybody. I will just say, you don't ever come into a room expecting that you know everything.
And also along with that, find an amazing pediatrician and family practitioner who genuinely loves your family, loves your kids, and will fight for them. Yeah. Because we have that. And it showed up in the hospital. Yeah. And it was the comfort that we needed. And our son was cared for.
So we go into the NICU, into the room, and he's starting to not do great. I can remember we've got tons of pictures of him. His color isn't great. And that night he has his first like spasm. And it was really hard to see. And we learned later that one of the things that allowed his body to survive as long as it did was something about the heart closes at the 48-hour mark, roughly, continues to kind of heal up. And so while that was open, his body was still able to pump oxygen and blood through his body. But as soon as that piece closed, he was no longer able to. And so as that piece was closing, he started having these spasms. And the second night was awful. And I can remember just being completely and utterly exhausted and beat and not knowing when he's going to pass. Unsure how we made it this far. Thankful that we made it this far, but also slowly watching him pass. And so we make it through the night. And then that next morning, Dr. Roseman, Dr. Kachi, who had been
That's not his name. We're going to have to.
Okay. It's one of the doctors, and I apologize, I don't remember his name. that had been the palliative care guy who had given me the marriage advice. He had been out of town and he got back that morning. And as soon as he got back, he came to the hospital and saw us. And he was in the room and he had just examined Noah, and then Noah passed, is what I remember. Because then he came back and examined him again, and he had told us that he had passed. And I learned later something very sweet that you had prayed for, was that I would have that experience of getting to hold him when he passed, which was very tender of you and selfless of you to pray, because you had been able to carry him for so long. And in that moment was awful, right? I mean, there are not words, but I can remember finding this moment of peace, knowing that he went from his earthly father's arms into his heavenly father's arms. And in that moment, God answered the prayer that I'd prayed thousands of times by that point, and he healed our son. And it was not the way I wanted. It's still not the way I wanted, but it's the way that he chose to heal him. And years later now, this has been the last 12 months, I've come to this realization. I've let down so many people in my life, but I never let down Noah. Never did. And so, what a merciful, tender thing for me to hold on to with my son, that I never let him down. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for his life and how he's changed me as a husband, as a dad, as a man, as a friend. I'm thankful for his life. I'm thankful for the time that we got with him. I'm thankful for the moments that we were able to spend and the memories with him. Then we go into having let him go, and that was the hardest for me, of the nurses taking him away. I think that was probably the hardest moment for me.
Yeah. Because normally, when you're in the hospital, if you've had kids, they'll wheel them off to check their vitals, or sometimes they'll take them to the nursery, for you. But I mean, he's never coming back. And we chose that, because we wanted to remember him, um, when he looked full of life. Uh, because once he had gone on to be with the Lord, I mean, it just doesn't look the same. And so very, very sweet friend of mine, I don't sew, I'm not very good at it, helped me sew a blanket for him. So they took that with him, which, none of this is okay and feels okay, but it was a way of being able to, you know, take care of him one last time. Um, I will say, I don't know if I've ever said this out loud, but when he passed away, that is the hardest I've ever cried in my entire life. Like, it's what I imagine when it says Jesus wept in the Bible for Lazarus, what that truly means from just deep in my soul, just weeping. And even knowing that he was already gone, having a doctor tell you that, I mean, I can visualize them putting their hand on your shoulder and saying, "I'm so sorry." And again, these doctors do this every day. The nurses in the NICU. And we even said that as we were leaving, "I don't see how you do this." And the one nurse that ended up rolling him um, away said, "I'm going to hug my kids a little harder tonight." And I just also think that's a memory for us. And that's how the podcast started, today, right? Is this tragic thing happened to the Kirk family. And we just, not that you can't, get upset and need some time from your kids, but this recognition that we don't know how long we have here and to be on mission for what the Lord has for us and also just be appreciative of the blessings that He's pouring out um, on us.
It has taught me to cherish time
Yeah.
a lot. I don't do that perfectly,
No.
but it has definitely made me cherish time.
Yeah, there's still days that we count down till bedtime.
Yeah, that is for sure. So we have his memorial service on the 13th, which is Trisomy 13, March 13th. Trisomy
Yeah.
13. It was like the last one that they did that year in Athens because of COVID. Um, there's just, again, just moment after moment that we see the little pin lights. We see,
Which would have been, as awful as it was to bury him, it would have been awful to do it by ourselves. Or,
yeah,
goodness, I don't know, not at all. Like,
yeah, or the next year.
no.
So what it allowed us to do is it allowed us to, as hard as it is, continue to move forward as a
Right.
family.
And that was wisdom we got, was as quick as possible, even though we weren't going to feel like it, to go ahead and have his memorial service, to not delay. And that was something else. So if anybody is watching this and listening and going through this, one, I'm sorry. Um, but two, decisions like memorial arrangements and things like that are very difficult to make, especially when your head feels so clouded. But I'm glad that we took the time to do what our family needed. We had considered doing a larger service in our church, and our pastor and his wife said, everyone will come. Everyone will come to cry with you and give you a hug and be present and mourn this sweet baby. Um, but if that's not what you want, if you don't want to have to feel strong for other people, if that's not what the grieving process looks like for you, then don't do it.
Yeah.
And so I just really appreciated that we made it an intimate ceremony because we needed that. We just needed to be able to cry or sit or sing. And we had two dear friends sing two songs for him and for us. It was sweet.
The memorial service, obviously very hard.
Mm.
Um, I can remember not wanting to do it. I can remember not wanting to have a graveside, not wanting, I just, in the moment, I felt like he's not there. I won't ever visit there.
Mm.
And I'm so glad that we did because I've gone by many times. I've taken our other boys there. I've gone by myself. And it's a marker for me to remember God's faithfulness
in the midst of everything, and to be thankful for my son, and to be thankful for the time that we got with him, and knowing that every day that we go through, we get further removed from him on this side of heaven, but we get closer to him in heaven. And so while the memories, some of them are etched in my mind forever, others are getting cloudy. So I'm thankful that we took pictures. I'm thankful that we wrote, but we continue to get closer to him, closer to being reunited with him. You know, as David said, that he will not return to me, but I will go to him. And so I found a tremendous amount of hope and peace in that. Um, I'm very thankful for that moment. So I can remember, that was very difficult. And we had this very unique experience in grief of a delayed grief process because we found out in September that he was sick, and we grieved him until he passed in March, and then had a whole new round of grief to go through. And so we did not do that perfectly. No one does. We, as we kind of shared, found things that helped us. Um, but we've also found ways that we try to remember him. So we have our tattoos, so I'm thankful
Yeah.
for. And it's a great way for us to share his story and to talk about our son. Um, we share about him publicly. Um, we will say things, we have 4 sons. And the way I typically try to bring that up to people is we have 4 sons. Walker's 7. Noah would have been 5. Abel's 4, and Warren's 2. And it gives them the opportunity to ask about Noah, or if they're uncomfortable, to not say anything else, because some people are uncomfortable with it, and that's okay. Um, but what other things can you think of that we have done to, as a family, to help kind of remember Noah in different moments with our other boys and as a family?
So normally on his birthday, we will choose a type of cupcake to make. The boys typically help in that, which is just a fun way for them to, help celebrate their brother. Um, I will also say we have plans to do similar things every year. Just sometimes grief is just hard and hits you hard, and if you don't do the same thing, that doesn't mean that you're dishonoring the person or
Yeah,
not continuing with their memory.
that's a great
Um,
point.
I've had to give myself a lot of grace for that. And then 2 years ago now, right?
Yeah,
It was not this birthday, but last birthday. So in 2024, we made a dear friend in our CrossFit community, um, who we sent her some specific statistics about Noah, his weight, trisomy 13, the day he was born, things of that nature. And then
the
also,
57 and a half hours that he lived.
correct. And then, some exercise movements that we enjoy doing. And so there's a thing in CrossFit community called Hero WODs. And so they're made after individuals who have lost their lives or in the line of duty. So Murph is a really popular one. It's done every Memorial Day in honor of Mike Murphy, who's a Navy SEAL. And so Noah is definitely a hero to us and to our family. And so we wanted a healthy way to honor him with our bodies, that we are still here and we're still able to move and do these things. So for the boys to be able to join in as they get older, if they so choose. And so she made this very difficult, but really great workout in his honor. And she even said when she sent it to us, I want it to be hard because this is a hard thing you guys did, but also you're still here and you're still fighting and you're strong and you can do it. And so I think it's super emotional to do.
but it's also us getting in there and doing this for our son. So he can't do lunges and pull-ups, but we can do them and remember him uh, while we're doing it. So those are some things that I can think of that we do.
And I love the point that you made. I just want to reiterate is grief comes in waves, and it comes in sometimes moments, sometimes extended moments. And so it wasn't like this linear, we have his memorial service and then we're on this steady climb out of our grief journey. At
No,
least it wasn't for me.
no.
And there were days that I felt right back in the sea of like I'm drowning. And then there were other days where I felt like I'm coming up for air. And I can remember a dear, dear friend of mine telling me soon after Noah passed of be okay when you have a good day. And being like, I can't have a good day. I'm a grieving dad. I can't ever have a good day. And then I started having good days. And there weren't a bunch of them at the beginning, but I would start to have a good day and I would be very thankful for it. And then I'd string together a couple of good days. And that would be kind of my closing thought in this conversation is long-suffering, patience, grace and mercy for people that are going through circumstances. You never know what somebody's going through.
Yeah.
You just don't know. And if you're in the midst of a storm, lean into God, lean into your community, take it one day at a time. Don't try to plan out the rest of your future. Don't try to plan out the rest of the week or the day. Take it one meal period at a time. That helped me. And be okay when you have a good day. And give yourself the grace to say, today was a good day. Even in the midst of how hard my life is and the circumstances that I've been marked with, I had a good day today. And the last thing I'll close with is encouraging everyone to share your story because this is hard. We've both cried. It's hard to talk about, but it's one of those things that it's a way for us to honor our son. It's a way for us to find redemption in his story, to find some additional healing in his story, and hopefully to help someone else. And you never know what somebody else is going through, that you may have some wisdom and empathy to share that can change their life. And so I just would encourage our audience, step out in boldness and courage, as we kind of started the conversation with, and be willing to share your story, even when it's messy, even when it's hard, that people need to know your story. I love you. I'm proud of you. You're a great mom. You're even a better wife. And there is nobody that I would rather do this with. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for the way that you protected and served our sons, and you protect and love and serve all of our sons. But thank you for being a great mom to Noah. And I'm very proud of you. And I love you a bunch. And thank you, everybody, if you've made it this far in the conversation. Thank you for our incredible community that continues to pray for us and support us and wrestle with us and struggle with us. And we're very thankful for the love. Thank you, everybody, for pulling up a seat at the family table. I know this one was hard. This one was raw, but thank you for being a part of the community. If you know somebody, share this with them, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for pulling up a chair at the family table. We hope today's conversation has strengthened the bonds that hold us together. Don't forget to follow the show to keep these heartwarming stories coming your way. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share it with friends and family. And if there's someone whose family story you think would be a perfect fit for the show, drop their name in the comments. We would love to hear from you and bring more families to the table. Until next time, cherish those moments with your loved ones.